Good morning. In this session of UMTS, we will be covering the UMTS Core Network. In our previous session, we have studied about the radio access network of our UMTS. As we know that the UMTS architecture is classified into two different categories. UMTS network is classified into radio access network and our core network, which is also referred as the backbone network. Now we have studied about RAN, which is a radio access network. That this network is responsible for employing our radio access technology. Now we know that the 3G networks are based on the concept of WCDMA. So that means the air interface processing, that is between the user equipment and the NodeB constituent, that is done in our RAN, which is also referred as UTRAN. So today we will be studying about the core network because we know that the end services of the core network are provided to users when they are connected with the help of radio access network. So today we will be studying about the core network of UMTS architecture. If we recall the architecture, it's like we have user equipment, NodeB, then we have RNC, which is the governing element of radio access network. Then this portion is our radio access network. Now we have core network. Now this radio network controller connects the user to the core network. So that means this here acts as an intermediary for connecting the user to the end network, that is the backbone network. Now core network of UMTS is classified into two different categories: circuit switched domain and another one is packet switched domain. Now in previous session we have studied the various interfaces between these nodes also. So this interface between the radio network controller and the circuit switched domain is IUCS. C is representing our circuit switched domain, and this interface between the radio network controller and the packet switch domain is termed as IUPS. PS denoting our packet switched network. Now this circuit switched network is connected to another PLMN network, and this packet switched network is connected to or attached to internet. So we will discuss both of these categories of core network one after another. Now we know that UMTS is an evolved technology. From 2G we have migrated to 3G. So similarly, there has been migration of the architecture of this 3G also. So has two domains. First one is circuit switched domain. Now the circuit switched domain of 3G networks or our UMTS Core Network is responsible for implementing the circuit switched calls, that is our voice calls. So this portion is responsible for routing, establishing, managing our voice calls. Now how these calls are managed and routed through the networks. So for that purpose we have various circuit switch domain constituents that makes this portion of core network working. Now let us discuss that what are the different elements of circuit switched domain. Now if this is the RNC of the UMTS network, then it is connected to circuit switch domain. So the most governing element of the circuit switch domain in our core network is MSC. MSC is further attached to GMSC and ISTNs also. So what does this MSC refers to? We have studied this term in GSM also. So this MSC functions as similar to the MSC of our 2G networks, but most profoundly here it is referred as 3G MSC. Our MSC refers to mobile switching center. This mobile switching center is the crucial and governing element of the core network. Here the term switching is used. So that means this portion, this element of this core network is responsible for switching the calls from one user to another or from one network to another network. So that means the most important fundamental principle of this 3G MSC is switching calls routing of calls to further networks. So this mobile switching center basically acts as a switch for the transmission and forwarding of calls to the other networks, routing of calls to another networks. So that means when it is doing such crucial functions like routing, management and switching of calls, so we can say that this unit is responsible for the mobility management of the network. This unit is held most responsible for establishment of connections. These are the fundamental applicability of mobile switching centers. Now, another important function which is performed by mobile switching center is the billing operation. That means it contains all the subscription charges of the users. It maintains the database of the different charges of the different subscribers who are using the services. So that means it generates the billing information for the various users. Now this mobile switching center acts as a switch and it acts as a database also. Now how it acts as a database? This mobile switching center acts as a database because it contains a series of registers or database attached with it. So the number of databases which are attached with our mobile switching centers are like HLR, VLR, AUC, and EIR. These four registers are also used in the GSM MSC. HLR refers to home location register, VLR refers to visitor location register, AUC is the Authentication Center, and EIR is the Equipment Identity Register. Now we will discuss the functions of each of these in detail. First one is HLR. As I mentioned, this is home location register. Now, home location register. It clearly implies that HLR is responsible for maintaining the permanent database of a particular user. That means, for example, when a user accesses some services for a particular network in his circle, so that means he has been registered to that network in that area. So that means he is the permanent user of that area. So his master profile, all of his subscription related information are permanently maintained by home location register. Home location register maintains the permanent profile or database of the particular user. As soon as the user is subscribed to the services, his database will be updated by the HLR and it will be maintained by the HLR until the user is activated to the services. So home location register is our home network because we are initially subscribed our services from our home network. So it is maintaining the original, the permanent profile of a user related to his subscription information. After home location register, the second database, which is with our MSC. HLR is also associated with MSC. The second one is VLR. Now VLR corresponds to visitor location register. Now, when we are in our home network, so that means that is our home network. When we are moving outside of a home network to a new network, so that means that is not my home network. I am a visitor in a new network. But when I'm switched to a new network, at that point of time, we also need to access the services. So for that purposes, our database, our authentication related information, all of these should be needed by our new network. So how is that possible? For that purpose, we have the visitor location register. So that means as soon as a user enters a new network, his profile must be updated there temporarily. HLR is responsible for maintaining the profile permanently, but here visitor location register updates that profile of the user temporarily so that the user can be provided the services. So our visitor location register is responsible for maintaining database on temporary basis. That means roaming facility. We are very much acquainted with the term roaming. Now, roaming is a service when we are outside our home network. When we are outside of a home network, at that point, we also need to make calls. We also need to access the services. So, for that purpose, when a user enters into a new MSC, it notifies the registration on that new mobile station. So, it contacts with the VLRN. Then these two registers communicate with each other and HLR updates the temporary profiles to VLR. So that means home location register and visitor location registers are responsible for maintaining the database of the users. One is responsible when you are in home network and another when you have migrated from your home network. That is when you are under the roaming services. Now, the third register under our mobile switching center is AUC. AUC refers to Authentication Center. Now the term authentication in layman language also means that we have to validate a user, a profile of the user. That means there should be an subscribed user. There should be not any false or fraudulent user who are trying to access the services. So that means all the encryption keys which are related to the identification of the user, that is maintained by our authentication center. So that means all the authentication related parameters are maintained in this database. Authentication center is responsible for the verification of our subscriber identity module, which is UMTS SIM in case of our 3G networks. So for that purpose, there is an identity associated with this subscriber identity module, which is your IMSI, which refers to International Mobile Subscriber Identity. So that means the authenticity of a user or authenticity of a valid SIM card is verified from this parameter. Now, after the authentication center, the next database in mobile switching center is EIR. Now, EIR stands for Equipment Identity Register. Now, this register is responsible for maintaining the list of all the valid equipments. So that means with the help of this register, this database, we can check that which of the users are allowed to make the services, to use the services, and which are denied from the services. So for that purpose, the parameter which is involved to check the validity of a particular equipment used by the user is IMEI. Now, what does this IMEI refers to? IMEI refers to international mobile equipment identity register. Now, how does this register will work? This register works in association with three different kinds of list maintained with it. It has blacklist, gray list, and whitelist. So the users which fall under the category of blacklist, they are blocked. The one which falls under the category of gray list, they are denied from using the services, and under the whitelist, they are all valid IDs. That means they are allowed to access the services of the networks. So these are the different databases which are attached with our MSC, our Mobile Switching Center. Now after Mobile Switching Center, this was IUCS interface. Now MSC is connected to GMSC. So what does this GMSC refers to? GMSC refers to Gateway MSC, that is Gateway Mobile Switching Center. Now we know that gateway acts as in path or as in bridge between two different nodes, that is two different networks. So that means all the incoming and all the outgoing calls are routed through our GMSC. Now, if this is my one UMTS network and this is my another network, so all the calls which will be going to this network, they will be routed through my Gateway Mobile Switching Center, and all the incoming calls from some external network, they will be coming from GMSC to MSC, then to the RMC, NodeB, and then to the respective users. So that means this acts as in bridge, as in gateway between one network and the another external network. Because the other user can be in some different network, whether it can be in some public switch telephone network or our ISDN network. So this is how our circuit switch domain is responsible for providing the voice call services for our 3G networks. So this was the first domain, that was the circuit switch domain. Now, the next categorization of UMTS Core Network is packet switched domain. Packet switch domain. Now, as from the name, it clearly implies that this domain is responsible for providing the digital data services, because in current scenario the users are requiring for voice call services also, and they're demanding for good digital data services also, because the main emphasis here of this evolved UMTS is to provide higher speeds as compared to the existing GSM networks. So this packet switch domain is responsible for providing the digital data services. So in order to provide the digital data services, the packet switch domain is composed of two different units. One of them is SGSN and another one of them is GGSN. If this is my network like radio network controller, if this is connected here to my CS domain, and it is also connected to our PS domain with the help of this interface. Now, this has the component A, which is SGSN, and the component B, which is GGSN. Now, this is here connected to like HLR also, and to other equipments of CS domain like Authentication Center also. If I have my home location register here, and like GGSN here. So these units are connected to each other, and we know that our GGSN is then further connected to internet. Now we will be studying these two components in detail. So the first one is SGSN. SGSN refers to serving GPRS support node. Now here the term GPRS is used. We know that GPRS refers to General Packet Radio Service. So that means it was evolved. This SGSN was evolved whenever GPRS came into existence. But the usage of this node has been carried to UMTS network. So that means there has been the evolution of 2G to 3G in the sense of network also. Now, serving GPRS support node. This basically acts as MSC. We know that MSC is used in our circuit switch domains, but the functionality which will be provided by SGSN is similar to mobile switching center. So that means our SGSN acts as a governing element for our packet switched domain. That is, this unit is responsible for providing the data services when the user equipment is connected to this. So the other important functions which are provided by SGSN are like, first one of them is like mobility management. So that means SGSN node is responsible for the forwarding of data packets to the user or from user to some another user who is lying in some another network. So that is, this is responsible for the routing of your data packets. Second important function which is provided by SGSN is session management. That is, it manages the data sessions. The sessions for which the user is using the data services, it manages them in order to provide the good quality of services. SGSN is also responsible for updating the billing information. So that means it is responsible for billing management also. The SGSN performs billing operation with the help of some charging gateway functions of GPRS. Charging gateway functions of our GPRS. So SGSN is the serving GPRS support node which is currently serving the user equipment which is attached to it. It performs mobility for the data packets, session management, and billing of the users with the help of charging gateway functions. After SGSN, the another one is GGSN. GGSN refers to Gateway GPRS Support Node. Now for our circuit switch domain, like we had MSC, then we had GMSC. Now it acts as a gateway for your another network. So similarly, this gateway GPRS support nodes act as a gateway connecting the user to some external internet network. This is the user. Then you have attached SGSN when you're using the data services, and then we have GGSN, which is further connected to external network. So that means any data packet which is coming from this direction will firstly go to GGSN. Then GGSN will check the active SGSN for a particular user, and then it will forward those data packets to SGSN, and then it will forward it to the respective users. So all this forwarding here takes place with the help of the protocol which works between these two nodes, that is PDP, Packet Data Protocol. So this forwarding and reception of these packets from one point to another takes place with the help of your PDP context activation, that is our PDP protocol activated. So our packet switch domain is responsible for forwarding the data packets from user to another network and from network to the respective user. So today we have studied about the core network of UMTS. We studied circuit switch domain and packet switched domain. Our circuit switch domain is responsible for voice calls, and this packet switch domain is responsible for your data services. We studied about the different radio equipments which are used for these purposes. So when these radio equipments are configured properly, we get a fully working 3G network which is providing us the good calling services and good data services. So this is all for today's session. We will be studying about the WCDMA concept in our next session. Thank you.